Okay, look at this code. Currently, we have only one custom route here. But if you're working on a large application, sooner or later, this file is going to grow with a lot of custom routes, and over time, it becomes a mess. Plus, another issue with this approach is that you have to go back and forth between your actions and custom routes. And the third issue is that if we go back to Movies controller and rename this action to by release here, you can see it's not updated here. And that's because of this magic string. So when we rename a controller or an action, we have to remember to come back here and apply that name change as well. So this code is fragile because of this magic string. In ASP.NET MVC 5, Microsoft introduced a cleaner and better way to create a custom route. Instead of creating the route here, we can apply it using an attribute to the corresponding action. So you might ask, Mosh, why did you teach me the old and poor way of creating custom routes? Because you may be working with an existing code base with convention-based custom routes. So you need to understand how they work. But if you're building a new application or improving an existing one, I would recommend you to use attribute routing. Now let me show you how to define this custom route using an attribute. First, in order to use attribute routing, you need to enable it. So routes.map MVC attribute routes. We call this method. Now let's delete this route. Save. Back to the controller. We apply the route attribute. And here we pass the URL template. So movies/released/year/month. Now, to apply a constraint, we add colon. And then we add regex to apply a regular expression. This is like a function that we call. In parentheses, we pass the actual regular expression. So digit repeated 4 times. Note that this regular expression is not a string. So unlike verbatim strings, we have to repeat this backslash twice. Now with attribute routes, we can also apply other kinds of constraints. For example, I can apply a second constraint to this month parameter. So after regex, colon again. This time I'm going to use range to set a range between 1 and 12. So you see attribute routes are more powerful. We also have a bunch of other constraints like min, max, min length and max length for strings, integer, float, GUID, and so on. You don't have to memorize any of these constraints. Just be aware that they're supported by the framework. If you need to apply constraints to your attribute routes, just Google ASP.NET MVC attribute route constraints. Okay, so far we have looked at controllers and routing in detail. Now we're going to slowly transition to views. So in the next lecture, I will show you a few different ways to pass data to views.